Why don't we actually bring this down and go live and actually be on the internet? What do you all think about that? Are you guys good with that?
I mean, we're on there, so might as well.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Too late now.
Welcome to Wanderer's Haven, the glorious Twitch channel where we do all kinds of interesting and crazy and silly, stupid things that are going to live forever on the internet and have absolutely no repercussions for anyone ever. I am sure of
Never.
that. Hi, I am Miko, otherwise known as the OKSGM, and I have a lovely group of individuals here to share a wonderful story with you. We are going with part 3 of a game entitled Intresca's Requiem, game set in my homebrew world of Ysterra, in which we are delving into the historical lore of the world and tapping back into a time where a certain civilization controlled most of the known world, and might have some bad things in its near future as a result of some of other stuff going on. Before we get into all of that kind of fun stuff, let us go around the table and introduce ourselves, shall we? Let's start with Beth. Who are you and who are you playing tonight, please, Beth?
I am Beth, and tonight I am playing Oscar Barrick, the warrior strategist guy.
Killer of peasants.
Yeah, I really wanted to reach with this character, so I'm playing a human fighter, and it's a lot of fun. So we'll see how tonight goes.
And what kind of weapon do you have?
Oh, I have a falx. It's a long sword that's got a kind of like a hook on it.
That's right. So you're gonna call that sword Peasant Slayer from now on? Is that right?
Fuck. I have to. Yeah. There's also special stuff about my sword, which
might become very relevant as we begin tonight's game. We shall find out. And
It's got a bottle opener.
No.
Yeah, it is a really good bottle opener. Deb.
Hello.
Let's introduce you and get away from Beth before she embarrasses herself.
I'm Deb. I'm playing Cassia tonight. Cassia Ortezi. She is a follower of the Ascendant Apraxis, and is sort of horrified by all of the killing that was happening last episode. I do have my skull here right behind me in memory of all the peasants that Beth killed last week. So, really excited to see who else is dead.
Cassia was disturbed by it, but Deb really wasn't.
Indeed.
Let's move on, though. He is the oos of the internet, Ian. Bro, who are you, man?
I don't know if I can get any better than that. That made me feel good. Hey, everybody. I'm Ian. I'm playing Akris Shordokin, the warlock with the splash of barbarian. I don't mind the peasant killing. I guess maybe I'm the only one, but yeah, excited to get into it.
I mean, there's some lively at, so catch up on what you missed last week.
I'm gonna have to. I think the number was 10 that I had to reach. Right? Did I watch that correct? No. Okay, we'll see.
We shall see, indeed. Jeremy.
Yes.
You got invited back again?
No, I'm just crashing this party. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Good thing I didn't change the overlay.
Right. Yeah, it just happened to work out in your favor, of course. Yeah. Hey, I'm Jeremy. I'm playing Zorvir, who may or may not be emotionally wrecked after the start of this episode. No, that's me. That may or may not be emotionally wrecked after the start of this episode. We'll find out.
Because there's a very important question that
right.
You're going to ask me when we
Did
begin.
Miko kill the dog?
Let's move on. Kevin, who are you, man?
Yes, hello. I'm Kevin, and I am playing the Miko self-insert character, Develian Illustriel, who is a lot of fun and hopefully will not get shanked by this party at any given second, because he's so nice and kind and not exuberant at all.
Charming,
happy to be
even.
back.
Very, very charming.
I think we can all definitely agree that despite all of his pomposity, he is definitely charming.
And on that silent note...
we weren't talking about the character? Oh.
Yeah. let us do a little bit of a recap here for everyone. So, our wonderful companions, individuals gathered from the highest echelons of Intrescan society, each having their own prominence and roles within society in general, and all of them having differing degrees of a personal journey that led them to their status within the Empire. The group gathered before you, along with their entourages, although perhaps some of the entourages were not necessarily chosen this way, were chosen by the Emperor to head off to the far, far eastern portions of the realm, basically the farthest that you can get from the capital, to quell a ostensibly budding rebellion, news of which has been spreading far and wide, that individuals seeking to cause chaos and disturb the serenity of the Empire as a whole and to bother the rest of society have risen up and started to cause some serious problems in the far reaches. And that is what you are all doing. Not the least of which is Barrick's fault in the slightest whatsoever. He didn't get the attention of the Emperor at all. And the rest of you were definitely chosen at random. That much is true. But you guys have all ventured forth, heading east to deal with this, seeing the wide breadth of the differing elements of Intrescan society, having traveled together in caravan for more than a couple of months, in fact. Thankfully, the carriages that you ride in are very, very well appointed, and so the journey has not been as hard as perhaps some of you might have experienced in your other travels in life. But in this circumstance, for some of you, you have traveled farther than you ever have. You have seen portions of the Empire that maybe you'd only heard of or possibly read about in your various daily lives. And now you find yourselves in the thick of things, as when we had concluded our last session, a battle had just finished, or was seemingly on the edge of finishing, as a surprise strike seemingly had been concocted in your path, wherein an avalanche of stone and hewn trees were sent cascading down a hillside into your caravan, completely destroying and wrecking 4 out of the 6 carriages in which you resided. And thanks to some, we'll call them lucky rolls, all of you found yourselves in the 4 carriages that got hit for God knows why. And many people suffered tremendously from the impact of that, but that was just the least of the worry in the moment, because then you were assailed by a massive group of easily 30 or 40 peasants, seemingly in starving states at the ends of their ropes, attacking a superior foe, obviously one that they had the jump on and had managed to deal some significant injury to with their assault. But as you pulled yourselves from the various wreckages of your carriages and joined the fray properly, or I guess most everyone, because Zorvir kind of stayed under the wreckage of the carriage for a good minute, nonetheless, you were able to push back and repel the majority of the invaders, slaying more than a handful of them in the process, charming a handful of them as well through some deft magic, thanks to Zorvir. And here we stand now in the chaos, the slowly enduring chaos that is subsiding from the battle proper. I need for everyone to please roll a d20 for me.
Turned out so well last time.
No modifiers?
No modifiers.
13.
Okay.
Natural 20.
Nice.
7.
Lovely.
16.
And 18.
Excellent. All right. So, at this point, Jeremy, for Zorvir's sake, we will say that you have been pulled from the rubble by the individuals that had charmed you before. Beth, Barrick has just finished slaying one of the peasants as their body has fallen off of his blade. Develian, you have just finished skewering one invisibly, and Cassia is looking around in kind of surprise at the ones that had been attacking her seem to have dropped dead from an invisible hand. Ian will say that you are just venturing back into the battle because I didn't want to potentially cause you undue injury or cause your character, a potential death when you weren't here, because I don't like doing that to players. We had you kind of enter into the background of the scene last week, and we'll say that Acris is now rejoining the fray, having probably blasted a handful of peasants himself that had been assailing him and his companions. We are technically going to have to be in a pseudo initiative round. It's not really. It's to track how long people have been dead, we'll say. So I'm going to go around the table and basically.
Great job, Deb. You've been dead for 20 rounds, is what.
I will go around the table and I will ask everyone what it is that their initial intentions are, and that will help adjudicate how much time and how we process things going forward here. So, in the wake of this battle, as the adversaries that had been assailing you are obviously fleeing, right? Beth, what is it that Barrick does in this moment of chaos as people are fleeing and there's bloodshed abound and he sees the wreckage of everything around him?
So first and foremost, he is going to utilize his earring of message. It's a little cuff on his ear that allows him to basically send a message. He's going to send it to his friend and brother-in-law, Bastion. Now, I don't know... Oh, range is 120 feet, so that's pretty good. I'm just going to have him just call out a message and say, "How you doing, brother?" And
so
then just leave it at that.
Barrick would know that Bastion was riding a horse at the time that the attack would have occurred.
Okay.
And he and Barrick's other entourage member, Reese, were basically kind of riding at the front with Zolan off doing Zolan things. Zolan being a scout and, the sort was probably not close to the vicinity of things when everything went down. So it is entirely possible that the reason that this message spell fails is because they are out of range.
Right. He's got to try, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
The message does not connect. It just fizzles in. It just fizzles in Barrick's mind.
Okay.
And this brings up an interesting question. Not to bring too much humor into the moment. Does Barrick talk out loud when he does the message spell, even though he's not technically required to?
Oh, that's a good question. My assumption, as someone who is keen on walkie-talkies and all of that, is that yes, of course you would have to speak out loud.
Okay.
I would say probably yes, just like in the chaos of everything. Yeah.
Good to know. All right. Deb, what is Cassia doing in these moments?
Cass is looking...
and wait, I'm sorry, before you get into that, it's a poignant reminder, Beth, to remember that Barrick was in Develian's carriage at the time the attack happened. Barrick's carriage is still in the front.
Yeah.
And seems to be undamaged at this point. Just pointing that out.
Right. Okay.
Sorry, go ahead, Deb.
Cass is looking around for her entourage to see if anyone is nearby and how they're doing.
Okay. Roll an investigation check for me, please.
Investigation. dirty 20.
Nice. You know that both Joram and Magda were in the carriage with Cassia at the time that the attack happened. And you also know that Liv and Viv, right? It's Viv? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Liv and Viv were not in the carriage at the time. They were riding alongside. You do not see Liv and Viv currently, and you know that Joram and Magda would have to be buried in the rubble under your feet at this point. And so you start digging through the rubble. Go ahead and give me an athletics check, please, to see how well you are able to do this.
Oh no!
And
Is
I
this
will-
with advantage because I still have the I had
Yes.
that potion
Yes.
of great.
You-
Okay.
You know, was it a potion or did you cast it? You casted a spell.
Oh, I did. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
the
was
bull strength.
enhanced ability. Yep,
enhanced
that's what it
ability,
was.
bull strength. Yeah, you do have advantage with that, and also I will roll this into Develian's action then, Kevin, because Develian is basically standing right there and can see Cassia doing this. Does this influence your desires for whatever Develian would do in this moment?
Develian, in his invisible state, he stands there for a moment. He looks down at the peasant woman that he just killed. Part of her lower part of her head is gone from the explosion of the booming blade that he cast through his mage blade. He looks down to see that what Cassia is doing. He looks around. He sees another enemy closer to where his carriage was, and he stalks silently over to it, and he finishes them off with the mage blade.
Okay.
And then his earring activates. It's a little ring up on the top, and he does not speak aloud. He instead says, "Oh, Henna, do you have eyes?"
Okay, we will come back to you then. Okay, so what did you get on that roll for Cassia?
14.
14. So it's not easy to dig through this rubble, right? Because it's partial. It's not just the rubble of the carriages. It's also, giant rocks and trees basically on top of things. And so you are frantically digging through, and that's going to take you a little bit of time before you get any result from that. Ian, Akris, having just charged out, either Misty stepped or, made his way out on foot from the forest, it is worth mentioning that he is pretty injured because, you should know that in case it wasn't apparent for you. Everybody got very severely injured in the assault, whether it be from the avalanche or from actual fighting. So keep that in mind as you decide what you're doing for Akris. As he looks around the battlefield, he can very easily see Zorvir being surrounded by peasants that are not attacking him, that seem to be not worshiping him per se, but basically having been commanded to help him in any way that they can. And one of them apparently looking and digging around in the rubble for food, asking, "Where's the food at? We're supposed to have dinner." You see that with Zorvir, and even though you don't have an amazing passive perception, you've got a good passive perception. So I'll say that you can also see Cassia and her digging through the rubble of the carriage that she was in.
I think Akris, just kind of seeing both of those sets of action, he's going to start looking around for Kendra specifically. He also wants to kind of see if he can catch eyes on Rendar as well, but out of the two, he feels Rendar's more capable. He's definitely looking for her though, to see if she's injured or around.
Sure. So you know that both Rendar and Kendra were in the carriage with you when it got hit. You know that Borvir was not in the carriage. He was riding on a horse near the carriage when the avalanche occurred. So you do not see their bodies or see them moving around or anywhere in the battlefield at present. So your only assumption is that they are potentially still in the rubble of your carriage.
I guess without even thinking, just going to dig through the rubble through my carriage.
Okay. Go ahead and give me an athletics check, please.
So 19.
All right. You very easily start moving a good bit of the rubble away. And based on your d20 roll earlier, I will say that the first thing that you find, you see the arm. You basically uncover the outstretched arm of Rendar in the rubble. And we will move on to Jeremy.
Yes. So I haven't quite hit the shell shock yet, but it's about to happen. I'm currently still animated, trying to get these fellows to, not attack me or anyone else. My magic is holding, but I do know it is a fragile thing, so I'm making sure no one is attacking them, lest to break the spell. But I am going to. I'm very confused. Like, why are these loyal subjects attacking us? Were they confused? Did they not know who we were? And why are they so emaciated? That's so strange. They're obviously starving. And so, going to help them try and get some food out while looking around. I feel pretty confident that the Golden Balance can take care of themselves, so it hasn't even crossed my mind yet that they might not have been able to stop an avalanche from crushing them.
Okay, sure. Do you think then that unless something out from the outside actually comes and interferes with this little bubble of activity that you have with these peasants, that your focus is going to be entirely on them for a bit?
I think so.
Okay, so then
unless I see something or somebody comes over.
Okay, I'm gonna then move on to everyone else, and we will come back to you with that experience, because there's some other kind of more time-pressing situations to deal with here. So Kevin, after Develian goes over and hacks down a fleeing peasant in his invisible state, isn't that what you just said you were gonna do?
Yes, I did something. Yes.
I mean, maybe not those words, but
I mean, I'm not going to force you, or I'm not going to make that cost you anything, basically, because that's what you do. What else? What is your intention for Develian in this case? I kind of know everybody else's intentions. So
did I hear an answer from the message that I sent?
You did not.
Okay.
But you also know that you had also tasked Ohana with scouting, and that could easily take them out of the range of the message spell.
Absolutely, yeah. So then Develian is going to step away from the individual that he just committed a coup de grace against, and he is going to leave them lying in the rubble next to his carriage. He is going to stroll out, and as he begins to become visible, everybody's going to see him become visible right at the edge of everything as he's moving off to be where the horse individuals in our party were, the different members of the entourages that were on horses. He's going to go investigate and see.
They were all kind of scattered, so if you want to go and investigate, you can easily move into the forest and start looking for who is it that you think you're looking for first.
Excuse me, which one of my entourage was on a horse?
So Lord Burrows was definitely on a horse, along with Carrick and Jacerin.
Okay.
Vidania was in the carriage with you and Barrick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go try to find Lord Burrows Rutledge and see what has become of him on his horse. Make sure he is all right.
Okay. Oh, and I just misspoke. Jacerin was also in the carriage with you.
Okay.
It was Burrows and Carrick that were not.
Gotcha.
All right, so as you go off and do start investigating, go ahead and give me either grant perception if you wanted to do perception, so either perception or investigation.
Okay, perfect. I'm sure my perception is better, but let me double check to be sure. No, my investigation is a +8, so we'll use that.
Sounds good.
Oh, that's a 27, 19 plus 8.
Nice.
It's a great
You
roll.
you
I
go
like
off
that.
in search of Burroughs and Carrick, and bear in mind that this is still a battlefield, right? Even though people are fleeing, the members of your entourage that had been on horseback, the ones that had been thrown from the carriages rather than crushed inside of the carriages, would have been part of the fray. So there is still, in the outskirts of the battlefield that you had been fighting on, there is still chaos happening, right?
Okay.
So I'm assuming that if anyone were being hostile to one of your companions or potentially hostile to you, you would dispatch them, right?
Oh, of course. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure I understood that for you.
Yes, definitely. Some of
Your
them will be, if they
sword will
come close,
continue to
it'll
get
be
bloody
by
then.
sword. Yeah. If they come close, it'll be by sword. If they are far enough away, it will be by spell. So I will make
Fair
sure
enough.
that. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, Beth. With no response to your message and the decent perception that you have, and I say decent, it's fucking amazing, but decent compared to perhaps some of your other party members, you would be very easily able to notice both Cassia and Acris digging through the wreckages of their carriages, and Zorvir not seemingly in any immediate duress, we'll say.
Okay. I guess he would sort of look around to see if there was anyone else from their caravan that is around, remotely alive, anyone that he can aid immediately.
Okay, so just to be clear, you want to move into the chaos of the battlefield in an effort to aid people as opposed to potentially aiding Cassia or Acris.
Nope, I want to aid Cassia and Acris.
Okay. You don't have to. This was not me calling you out to do that. I was just wanting to be certain that that's what
cool.
you wanted to do.
No, let's help. I would likely, so Barrick would go over to Acris first and foremost, just
Okay,
it's his bud.
Right. So then, as you move in to assist Acris, you can see, or actually, Ian, why don't you tell us what Barrick sees for Acris as he is just starting to uncover the potentially limp body of his friend Rendar.
Fierce focus and desperation. As everything is going on around, just seeing the arm is enough for Acris to go into like this blind, helpful rage to pull out all of the rubble he can. And he's not even saying anything. He's just moving stone, wood, anything that he can just to see if his friend's okay.
All right. So, do you think that Acris would notice Barrick coming over and lending aid?
Yes, but he wouldn't notice that it was Barrick specifically. I think he would see somebody approaching and he would immediately turn on the defense.
Okay. You guys can
Barrick,
roleplay that out if you want.
Yeah, so he'll come up and sort of see that you have entered this, just rage-filled moment. He'll come over and start helping you move the rubble, and just look away from you while helping and say, focus on your breathing. Keep going.
He's not paying attention. You can just hear him. He's just like, he has a family. He has to. I shouldn't have brought him on this trip. I just don't know what's going on. I don't know what to explain to his grandmother. He's freaking out.
Between the two of you, you very quickly uncover his body. And as you do uncover his body, you can see that, well, actually, I don't think Acris would be able to tell this, but Barrick, why don't you give me a medicine check?
Medicine?
Because he's drenched in blood.
15.
You can definitely see that he is breathing. You, being the combat seasoned veteran that Barrick is, he recognizes when someone is severely injured and may not continue breathing for very long, but at the moment he is breathing. And given your passive perception, I will say that you also see a foot kind of trapped underneath of one of Rendar's legs, a boot that Barrick would probably recognize as being the other friend of Acris's, Kendra.
In seeing that they're breathing, is this something that like a potion could be administered, or
Probably. Yeah.
okay? I will tell Acris, keep digging, sort of pointing over to where I see the foot, and I will take my potion of greater healing and give it to
Do you have
Rendar.
a weaker one?
I have two, but they're in my ring.
So seeing
Just
so seeing that
I don't want you to overkill healing a person.
I know.
So seeing that you're pulling out a potion of healing, like Acris is legitimately gonna like kind of push you away. This is outside of normal behavior.
Yeah.
For Acris, and he pushes you out of the way, and then I'll take out one of my potion of healings, one of my lesser potions, and administer it to Rendar.
So
the second he starts moving me away, I will start digging the other friend out.
Okay. So Acris, you are able to administer the potion to Rendar, whose breathing stabilizes. Just so you know, he was 1 round away from dead, or one failed death save away from dead.
Okay.
And that was what those D20 rolls were earlier. Just so you guys know, they were related to that circumstance. And so Acris, what do you think Acris's reaction would be as he sees in the few tiny bits of Rendar's flesh that are not drenched in blood, not all of which is his blood, that you see some coloration like return, and his breathing kind of stop being so shallow? How do you think Acris responds?
He immediately starts to wipe his face off with his cuff, like just clearing any blood away from his eyes and his mouth and any remnants of that, so you can start to see some semblance of his actual skin color. And after he kind of gets it mostly clear, he holds Rendar in his hand and he just like slumps his head over and he goes, "I don't think the extra iron would be good for your bun recipe."
And then in that moment, Beth, Barrick is starting to dig out, and he starts to move the leg of the person that he believes to be Kendra underneath. And so the two of you will get an opportunity to think about how you would react to Barrick lifting up this leg and then stumbling backwards as the leg is detached from whatever body it was originally connected to, while I move over to Deb, who is digging through the rubble in search of her companions, frantically digging through. I need another athletics check from you, I'm afraid.
Oh boy.
Actually, you know what? No, I don't. I don't need that. You have that spell going. And I think that is more than enough justification for Cassia to, outside of her normal possibility, be just flinging some of this rubble to the side. And as she does so, go ahead and give me an investigation check as she reveals the state of her companions.
18.
More than enough. So you throw off to the side a large chunk of debris that you very easily recognize to have been part of the top of the carriage. And underneath, you reveal both of your companions, Joram and Magda. And you can see that Joram is basically laying on top of Magda in this state, so it's kind of hard to see what condition she is in. However, you also see that there is a huge chunk of debris from the caravan embedded in the back of Joram, and Cassia is aware enough of the healing arts to know no one could survive such a state. And it's very obvious to her that Joram was probably killed almost instantly by that impaling into his body. But at the same time, it also looks like he was doing it to shield Magda from whatever that was.
So it's been a minute since he's been dead, or this was...
So, no, he is within that window.
Okay.
I mean, Cassia is... I don't know how... You tell me, how much has Cassia been in combat? How much battle has she actually seen?
Not much.
Okay.
But I think she's done a lot of, like, research on various medical things and is, like, feels competent in this moment.
Sure. There's still, though, the impact, the mental impact of things. So I'm gonna, and that's not gonna be a high DC, but I'd like for you to make a wisdom saving throw.
26.
Cool as a cucumber. Absolutely devoid of any distraction in this moment. Cassia very quickly surmises in her head he can't have been dead that long. He should be within the capabilities of the revivification magic that she knows. She just has to remove the chunk of wood from his back first, because that would hurt.
Yeah, so that's exactly what she would do, is rip it out and cast Revivify.
Okay. As she tears out this chunk of wood and reaches into her pouch to retrieve the material component that she keeps, segmented inside of the pouch, you tell me, what does this magic look like? How does Cassia cast this spell, Deb?
She sort of rubs her palms together, and there's this like golden shimmering between them, and she just lays her hands on his head and sort of mutters a blessing of Apraxis.
Okay. As she lays her hands upon his head, there's a moment where the magic kind of washes through him, and it makes you, the pause of reaction makes you question whether or not you had it right, whether or not he was actually within the window of opportunity for the spell to work, before his body seizes up practically and he jerks awake, basically flying away from you as all of the muscles in his body tense up and release at once. And he collapses back to the just off to the side of you, breathing, and his eyes like fluttering open, trying to become aware of everything. And in this moment, you also recognize that Magda is alive, but you're not sure how much longer she's going to be. She has some pretty severe injuries as well, and her breathing is very shallow.
I will just lean over and cast Healing Word.
Okay. Yeah, you easily do so. Just so you know, your natural 20 basically saved her life.
Great.
Yes. So as you unleash this healing magic upon them, and both of your companions seem stable, if not necessarily coherent, Magda's going to be out for a while. And the only reason that Joram is even becoming conscious in this moment is because of the revivification, but he is still very out of it in this circumstance. So I think he's just kind of like reaching around bleary-eyed and unsure of anything. And then we will go ahead and come back to Akris and Barrick then. Have you decided individually what your reactions are?
Barrick doesn't react. he the leg moves independent of the rest of the body. He sets it down a little bit more gently than like the frantic digging. And
you still have to uncover the rest of the body, by the way.
Yeah. He's just going to keep going because I don't know. Maybe this can still be something.
All right. And Ian, you're muted.
I think right now Akris is focused on Rendar. I don't think he noticed the leg yet, unless they were that close to each other.
Yeah, you're basically right there. He would have noticed it. I'm assuming his rage is subsiding a little bit after helping Rendar, and that would allow him to be cognizant enough to recognize that Barrick just unearthed what's her name, Kendra's leg, but not the rest of her.
I think seeing the leg, like Akris's head, like immediately snaps over, and he does this. Like he's still on the ground, like he's on his knees. He was holding Rendar. He does this like frantic scramble to the side to like start ripping away rubble. And honestly, while he's ripping it away, it is like gnawing at his hands. Like he's not really focusing on like the damage that just tearing through this is causing to his hands. He's just, the rage is back, and he's ferociously, even more so, just clawing at all of the rubble in the carnage just to try to find Kendra.
Okay. Between the both of you, you're able to, between the both of you, you are able to unearth the majority of Kendra's body, and you can see that she took a pretty severe, brutal beating of the assault. And she is most definitely, thoroughly, entirely dead.
Yeah, all of Akris's like weight just slumps to the ground, and he begins to like heavily sob into Kendra, and in almost a moment, like it feels like it's bullet time, but Barrick would see it, the whole reaction of him realizing that Kendra's dead and him beginning to weep, and then almost in an instant, like fiery anger like shoots right into his eyes. And I only think Barrick has only seen this a couple times. When I say a couple, probably like two, to where Akris is truly and blindly angry, and his head snaps over to the group of peasants that are worshiping Zorvir, and he legitimately stands up.
So before we get to that, because you've got that's enough of a pause that Barrick might have an opportunity to do something.
Yeah,
here.
So he's standing up and he sees it right now. Like, yeah.
So go ahead, Beth, and give me a either intelligence or either investigation or perception. Your choice.
Perception. $19.
Okay. You think that there's an opportunity. You've only used the blade maybe one other time to do this. This could possibly work.
Akris stands, and I draw my sword, and I say, "Wait." And I'll place the sword on Kendra's chest, still holding it myself, and I'll sort of like almost like a bar pushing down just a bit on the chest, and I will use my magical sword to cast Revivify on Kendra.
So you tell me what that magic looks like as it washes over her body.
So the sword kind of there's just like a faint glow that is like a little bit yellow gold, just barely there, and immediately that sort of light you can like see it concentrate and spread into Kendra's chest, and it sort of like radiates out from that. And the moment that I see that it has taken, he's going to immediately remove his. He's got kind of like one of those cape side things. Remove that and start tourniqueting the leg as well.
Okay. So does this change Acris's actions as he hears or sees this and hears breath return to Kendra?
Almost in an instant, it does. Like the focus, because I'm envisioning this is he's reacting to this as like a young person would. Like attention is focused elsewhere. This is the problem. You're the problem. I'm gonna go take care of that. And then this is happening, and he immediately turns his attention back down to Kendra, and he's just looking over her, and he's oh, you okay? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Again, crying again.
Does he kneel down again next to her?
Yeah, he does.
Okay. I think she is also somewhat delirious, not just from the effects of the revivification, but also the fact that she doesn't know why she's missing a leg and may not even realize that she is missing a leg at this point. And all you hear from her, you're close enough to hear like a groan and her basically say, "Oh, fuck." And in that moment,
he does chuckle like outwardly. He's like, oh, okay, your humor is still here. Good. Okay.
In that moment, we will come back to you, Deb, as Joram becomes more and more cognizant. He sort of sits up a bit. His breathing is still hard. Like he's breathing okay, it's just hard. Because he's, at 1 hit point and was just dead a second ago. And so he's kind of sitting up, and he's blinking his eyes a lot as he's looking around, and you see him like wiping his forehead and his eyes. He has blood, basically all over, and he's kind of like wiping it all away. And he looks down at his hand, and given the role that you had a second ago, I think Cassia very easily recognizes that Joram starts to go into shock. This is not a man who has ever seen battle. The most blood he's ever seen might be, nicking his, the side of his cheek while shaving. So he starts going into pretty severe shock in that moment.
Cassie would cast healing word on him as well, just to boost him a little bit.
Sure.
And I think she's torn because she wants to stay and make sure that he is okay, but she recognizes that there's probably other people around that need her help. So she's really kind of struggling in this moment to figure out and prioritize where her attention should be.
Make the decision.
I think after she casts healing word, she recognizes that she can't stay here all day, and she gives his hand a squeeze and just tells him, "I'll be back."
Okay. Hearing Cassia's voice and feeling the healing magic along with it is enough to calm him in the moment. And he kind of leans his head back down, and he looks over at Magda, and before you leave, you hear him in a very labored and difficult breathing way ask, "Is she all right?"
She's alive.
And he just like sighs heavily and closes his eyes and nods, and you can see that he begins doing a silent prayer to our praxis.
Great. I will head out of that and just scan around and see who else is around that I might be able to help.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Cassia's passive perception is 25.
25.
Yeah. So, very easily, with 0 difficulty whatsoever, Cassia is able to look over and see the situation going on with Akris and Barrick. You can see that Barrick is tourniqueting someone's leg, and there are 2 bodies basically amongst them that you don't, from this distance, you wouldn't know their physical state. But Barrick is at least attempting to do some kind of medical triage to someone over there. Beyond that, you would definitely be able to see Jeremy or see see Zorvir and his entourage of
What am I doing
peasants over there. You're one of the peasants, Jeremy.
That makes sense.
One of them has a mohawk. And easily able to see that. Everything else is going to be beyond the edges of the battlefield. You do see people you recognize kind of like trying to return. You wouldn't see anyone so severely injured that it would draw Cassia's attention away from this immediate circumstance, unless there's something else you want to go and investigate elsewhere.
I see that Barrick's doing like some immediate triage. I've got some ointment, and I'm gonna go over and use a dose of the ointment, particularly on the stump of Kendra's leg.
Okay. Does this ointment do anything special other than heal?
Let me just double check. I think it's just healing.
It's a chaos ointment.
Smells minty fresh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's just healing. So yeah, Cassia joins with the 2 of you over there if there's anything that you guys want to role play out.
I think in Elvish, Akris just a little bit more calmly now that she's breathing, tells to Cassia what's going on. And then he just asks her, like, can there anything done about her leg?
I don't know. I only have the materials for a certain number of spells, and I need to see who else needs help as well. My powers are limited.
Thank you for what you've done already. And I think he looks back down at Kendra and he goes, maybe we can get you a nice shiny gold one. He's just trying to like chuckle it off. She has that kind of humor.
Does Barrett contribute to any of this?
He just sort of backs away to let Cassia do what she does, knowing that his is truly just triage. There's not much beyond it. And he'll stand up and he'll do a scan to see if there's anybody else that's standing that he recognizes from their group, or any other enemies that are showing up now, given some time. But he'll sort of back away a couple of steps and then do his own scan of everything.
Okay. Just going through things here. Let me just make sure I have the right names. Zolan, I would say Barrick's eyes would be most immediately drawn to the silhouette of Zolan. And he would see her making her way from the front. Like, she's a good distance away at this point, within range of the message spell now. Okay. And she is running basically towards the battlefield.
Yeah, that's a relief. He will use another charge of his earring and just say, Zolan, is there anyone up there that needs help?
Remind me what race Zolan is?
Zolan is half elf, I believe.
All right.
Yeah.
as you say that, the response that she goes, "Oh fuck! I hate it when you do that. God damn it! Come now. It's Bastion."
He runs.
And she basically stops, having looking, still being able to see Barrack. She stops after the message spell goes through, and she turns and starts running.
Yeah, he'll follow. Are there any horses or anything?
There's a pile of dead ones.
That doesn't help.
You could
Okay.
take the time and unhook one from the front carriage if you want.
No,
Okay.
He won't stop. He's gotta just run. Book it.
All right. So, Develian, you're going off in search of the people that you had described before. You spend a decent amount of time doing this, and Develian also has a pretty good perception and investigation and all of that good thing. But I need for you to go ahead and I'll let you decide. You are basically going to be analyzing a battlefield that includes people fleeing, right?
Mhm.
And so I'll let you decide whether it's perception or investigation, and that will determine what kind of results you end up getting.
Sure. I think he's going to use his investigation skills. I think he's very logical in this moment. He's very still, because now we can see him because he's no longer invisible. He's uncharacteristically very still, very composed. His eyes are narrowed, and he's just looking around, almost like he has some sort of replay of the battle going through his mind as he's looking over he's looking from spot to spot. He's looking to the horizon. He's looking to the fringes of the area, just taking it all in.
Okay, go ahead and give me the roll.
You got it. That is going to be a 21.
Wonderful. So as you are going through this battlefield, it becomes very easily apparent to Develian that the number of peasants that attacked were easily 40, maybe even 50 total people. It was a huge number, right? And judging by just what he sees in his vicinity and knowing how large and broad the battlefield ended up being, he's pretty certain that a good majority of them died in this assault. He ends up finding two individuals almost right away. One of them being Borvir Thane, that is the guard for Akris, and he's basically just like Boromir'd with 7 or 8 arrow shafts kind of jutting out of him, and very much not breathing and not moving. But he also probably killed 8 peasants on his own, right? And he does also end up finding shortly thereafter the body of Carrick. That's the guardsman for Lord Rutledge. Yeah.
Yes.
Who, in a similar circumstance, although it only took maybe 2 arrows to drop him.
Sure.
Similar circumstance. The guardsmen of the entourages seem to have done a pretty staggering amount of damage to the attacking peasants, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And then he finds a blood trail that I'm assuming he would want to follow.
Definitely. He kind of looks at everything, and again, he gets that kind of more serious, that look on his face, and he slowly will turn and he will go further into the forest following the blood trail.
Okay.
And he will repeat through his earring again, now that he's moved, he will say, "Ohana, do you have eyes?"
You do now get a response now that you have moved a bit, and Ohana responds, "I do. Burrows is dead."
Develian stops. He takes a deep breath, does a nod, and he'll walk out. Well, he wouldn't really know where she is. He'll use the earring again, and he'll message to say, let's return then. How far is he?
Maybe 300 paces from the carriages.
And Develian kind of gauges how far away he is. And then
Should
he'll
I
just
ride
actually...
his horse back? His horse seems to be fine.
Yes. Yes.
Do you
And
want
then
me to bring
Develian will-
him as well?
That would be ideal, yes.
Fuck, I hate picking people up. And yes, the magic of the spell. By the way, I usually treat out of combat message spells as
Okay.
conversations.
Okay.
So
okay.
you don't have to. If the magic, I don't remember what magic items you guys have, but if you're using charges, that conversation was one charge.
Okay.
I'm not gonna be a dick and make you constantly use up stuff.
Sure. Okay.
So,
perfect. Appreciate that.
Out of combat
Yeah.
messaging is more trivial. So yeah.
And as she says that thing about hating picking up people, Develian gets a wide smile on his face, and he starts making his way back towards the carnage, I guess you could say. And a little bit more of that flamboyant jaunt is in his step again as he goes to approach everyone.
All right. Cassia and Acris. I'm assuming Acris is not going to be leaving his companion's sides at the moment. But you can tell me if I'm wrong about that, Ian.
I guess in this situation, yeah, he would. After he sees that they're kind of settling, he wants to make sure that they're okay, at least in the spot that they're at. And then that's when all of Barrick's training kicks in. He focuses on his breathing. He kind of centers himself and focuses onto his surroundings and what's going on.
All right.
So, yeah.
And Cassia?
I'm gonna take off after Barrick because that's the next thing that somebody needs help. So I'm gonna follow and see if there's something I can do.
Okay. Acris, would you also be following Cassia as you see her take off running in the direction that Barrick a few moments before took off running?
Yes, I would.
Okay. So the three of you are in a relatively short period of time, but, it could have been a minute, maybe. You all end up catching up to Barrick's scout, Zolan. And she is basically kneeling down next to Barrick's brother-in-law, Bastion, who has multiple sword gashes basically all over his body, and one particularly nasty one across his throat, almost as if someone had jumped onto his back and stabbed him in the throat. Very obviously the killing blow. And there are, interestingly enough, a decent number of places where you can see blood in the vicinity of him, and blood that wouldn't be his. He was injuring people, and then there's obvious drag marks where those people that he was injuring had been drug off away from him. And I think that Barrick would know pretty clearly that Bastion was probably not doing killing blows, probably not doing them on purpose. But here he lays at your feet, very obviously dead. Barrick. The others will catch up in a few moments.
Yeah, he drops and immediately goes and sort of puts his hand on the wound, regardless of whether or not anything would help. And he just says, no, come on, Bastion, stay with me here, and he will send out another message charge to Cassia, not caring how far she may or may not be, and just say, Cass, you got to get here right now. And he's going to just sort of stay there, holding the wounds, and sort of not able to decide which ones to put pressure on, and just sort of mutters to himself as he's waiting.
And as he's muttering this, Zolan puts a hand on his shoulder and squeezes tightly, and she says in her very, very stoic and seasoned way, "It's gone, Beric." And Cassia, you can respond to the spell if you want, but at this point you're only like 30 feet behind, so you could also just close the distance and say something if you wished.
Would I see them, like, sort of, would I see Beric realizing? So I would slow down, I guess, a little bit, to let them have the moment, but continue to approach.
Okay. So you and Akris slowly make your way forward, and you see Beric in this state over his very dear friend and brother-in-law Bastion.
And he's quiet, but he's crying.
Zolan, as you approach, just kind of nods, knowing Cassia, superficially as he does. He knows enough about her. She knows enough about her to... She steps back, and kind of just puts a little bit of distance and takes almost like a guardian position, looking around.
Come on, Bastion, don't go yet, don't go. And he'll sort of... oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Cass is going to kneel down, I think, by Bastion's head and catch Beric's eye and ask, what is his life worth to you?
Everything? Anything.
I can try to bring him back. And he's the only one. I don't have the materials that I need for more than one.
Did you see others?
Not
Are there
personally.
others?
I'm certain there are others.
As Cassia's attention kind of looks around, she, out of the corner of her eye, catches Zolan, who just nods, almost imperceptibly affirmative.
I think Cass wants to avoid a situation where she's gonna have to rank whose death means the most.
She doesn't have to. Beric thinks for a moment. Beyond the grief, and he'll recognize immediately that he doesn't want to come back, and he'll just tell you, go then. Go.
Cass looks at Beric and says, I broke my family. I won't let you break yours, and starts to cast Raise Dead.
Jesus.
Okay. So I think that, well, actually, I don't even know. Ian, is Akris proficient in Arcana or Religion?
Yeah, Arcana.
Okay. So I think Akris would know then immediately the ramifications of a Raise Dead spell. right? It's not a trivial thing. A, it costs more than most people make in a lifetime financially, but B, there's also rituals involved in the casting that mean that it does not always work. So do you think that Acris would be aware and astute enough to want to contribute to this resurrection?
Yep.
Okay.
I think he slowly walks over. He puts a hand on Barrick's shoulder, and then he starts kneeling next to Cass, and he doesn't even start speaking. He just starts going to work with her.
Okay.
While they're doing that, Barrick looks and sees Bastion still has his sword held in his hand, and he'll just sort of move Bastion's hand with the sword, sort of so it's like over his chest a bit, just as a show of respect.
All right.
So just out of curiosity, with my 26 passive, would I have seen the group of people race off down the road?
So here's the thing. There's a conversation taking place right now. We haven't gotten back to you yet because there's a lot of lore drop that's going to be happening. And so Zorvir is very much involved in a very heavy conversation between these peasants in this moment. So even with Zorvir's perception as it is, I don't think he would have noticed that.
Okay.
Not in so much that he couldn't notice it in a normal circumstance, but that the battlefield there's a lot of debris and rubble everywhere, and he's in a different circumstance basically at this point.
Yeah. I'm not going to come help all of you.
Okay.
Fine.
Fine then.
He's busy having tea.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, I'm waiting for the tea to warm up.
Ooh, fancy.
Right.
Okay, Deb, would you like me to explain as Cassia the circumstances of this ritual, or do you think you understand it enough that you could explain it in character for Beth and Barrick?
Go for it.
Okay. So as Cassia begins to cast this spell, she is retrieving the components from her pouch, and I'll let Deb you explain like what the spell looks like and everything. But as she's preparing all of these things and preparing the body and focusing herself, she starts speaking to Barrick, but not looking at Barrick, because she doesn't know fully if Barrick understands what raised dead means, right? And so as she's doing this, she just starts slowly speaking whilst maintaining her concentration. Barrick, this is not a trivial process. His soul is departed his body and needs to be returned. You can help. If you would like this to succeed, please, I beseech you to beseech Bastion's soul. I need for you to do something. Say something. There is enough of a tendril of connection that he might hear you. And so you, Beth, need to have Barrick figure out a way that he can contribute to the ritualistic portion of this spellcast.
So, Barrick is he's a tough guy. Looking at him, he's strong, he's very poised, he is meticulous, and even seeing him crying over his friend's body doesn't shatter that image at all. It's just, but as Cass asks him to sort of reach for his friend, he will put his hand on Bastion's hand that's holding his sword and just sort of close his eyes and think about just like has like a roll of memories going through his head while he sings some shitty, probably irreverent tavern song very quietly that they would have sung all the time, too often, probably at Barrick's wedding towards the end of the night when everyone was drunk, and just lets that roll through.
Okay. Give me a performance check, please.
Oh, Jesus. I have a -1.
You chose to sing.
Oh, I did. That's a 17.
Can I? Oh, never mind.
All right then. In this particularly strange moment for Cassia and Acris, you hear this melodic baritone voice belonging to Barrick singing a drunkard's shanty, and there's like a serenity about it in this moment that kind of catches the two of you a little bit off guard. That is a success. You have reduced the difficulty of resurrecting Bastion by 2.
Okay.
Acris, how would you like to contribute? Would you like to contribute?
Yeah, Acris has heard this song before, and he starts to haphazardly hum it as well.
So I should clarify, your contribution needs to be different
It needs to
from
be different.
Barrett's
Cool.
contribution.
I pull out a full electric guitar and
Plug it into Cassia.
right.
That she's got all the power.
She's got it. I think hearing Barrick kind of like tap into that kind of reminds Acris of all the kindness that Barrick is also like given towards him, and he wants to channel that into his work with Cassia. I don't know if it's something that needs to be outwardly done or something that can be like invoked from within.
Ooh.
But that's
Gotcha.
what I'm thinking.
Okay. So this isn't so much a beseeching of Bastion's soul per se, as it is maybe trying to reach out through the magic that Cassia is creating to help pull Bastion's soul back in. So
Yeah.
I'm going to say that'll be a Arcana check or religion check for you.
Yeah, we're definitely going Arcana.
You think?
That's a plus. That's a +7. Okay. Oh, that's a 26. 19 on the die.
You also are able to reduce the difficulty of the spell by 2. So even though Barrick has a very good passive perception, I feel like in this moment he does not see anything going on around him. So, Deb, you would hear some footfalls rushing towards you. You don't let it distract you enough, but you glance up to catch Zolan's sight and look with your eyes in the direction that the steps are coming from. Zolan is also looking over in that direction, just a half step behind Cassia, and she raises her bow with arrow drawn, but then slacks it, still notched, but slacks the bow, as you all see Develian running up as well. Develian, your blood trails that you were following before led you to a point that you could see the group gathered across, and I'm going to allow you to potentially contribute to this as well as you come up and are able to see Bastion laying on the ground. Very
I'm
obviously
aware.
dead.
Yeah, I'm aware enough to tell what they're doing when I approach, or
Yeah, you are also very proficient in Arcana and Religion, so you
Yeah.
would recognize someone attempting to resurrect someone in this moment.
okay. Develian stops for just a moment, and he walks right next to stand right beside Barrick. And as Barrick continues to sing this song, he just looks at him, and whether or not Barrick looks at him or not, he will say, "Your family has suffered enough." And he will step past Barrick, and he'll actually do something kind of probably out of character. He'll crouch down, kneel basically next to the body, and he puts a hand on the man's chest, and he leans in really, really, really close. And I don't think anybody would hear specifically.
They would all hear
what he
except
says.
for Acris.
Okay.
You can't.
He will-
Acris can roll a perception check if he wants to hear it. Everyone else guaranteed
Okay.
can hear it.
Okay.
Yeah, wait, I want to hear this too. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay.
I have advantage. Hold on.
Your advantage does not apply to this because it's not dragon related.
Well, dang. Well, that's a 16.
Okay.
Because I had a 13 on the first roll. I rolled it again. It was a 17. My plus 3, 16.
Okay.
With a what he perceives to be a stage whisper, Develian will put his mouth right next to the man's ear, just barely not touching it, and he will say, "The bonds of family will forever watch over you. In this moment, know that your sister is not ready to lose a brother, nor is her husband." And then he actually kisses his cheek. And I'd like to make a persuasion roll, if I could,
I'll allow it.
if that's what this would fall
Yeah.
under.
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's going to be a dirty 20.
Okay. That also successfully reduces the difficulty by 2. So Cassia, it now falls, or Deb, it now falls to Cassia. She needs to roll a spellcaster ability check. The DC was 16 because this is the first time that Bastion has died. And it got reduced by 6, so your spellcaster ability check DC is 10.
Let's
So
go.
that's just a
That one. No.
straight. That's a straight wisdom roll.
17.
Okay.
Not dying today.
And Deb, you now get to declare and explain what the spell looks like and how what all of this looks like as Bastion's soul is returned to his body.
She starts out kind of the same way as the Revivify spell. She rubs her hands together and there's sort of a golden glow, and she just puts her hands on the sides of Bastion's head and kind of holds it in place as she mutters a few prayers. And there's like you can slowly start to see in gold, like the symbol of Apraxis show up on his forehead. And the wounds sort of start to shimmer in gold and silver and close themselves as the magic takes hold.
Okay. And I will add to this that you all see a similar glowing symbol upon Cassia's forehead as well, as this spell is enacted. And breathing in a burst, you see Barrick's chest heave, and he comes to life once again. He is not conscious, and he is laying there breathing once more, suffering through all of the penalties and difficulties of having been dead and being returned to life once again. And now
Develian's gonna. Like, Dwell's gonna lean back and go, by the gods, was he actually dead? Did I just kiss a dead man?
Roll a deception check.
You're inherently an idiot.
12 plus 2 is a 14.
Does anyone have a passive insight lower than 14?
Nope.
Yeah. I have a 13.
You can roll your insight if you wish.
No, we're just gonna keep that 13.
Okay.
That was a 6 on the die.
Acris believes Develian in that moment. Barrick and Cassia and Zolan does not believe him either. And so, let us backtrack just a few minutes of time as the chaos of everything still going on. Zorvir is being helped down from the rubble in this moment by the 6 peasants that he had successfully. It was 6, right? Was it 5 or 6? However many it was.
It's 5, yeah.
Right, because there was 6 targeted, but only one of them did actually save.
Right.
So yeah, the 5 peasants basically helping him down. His perception and insight is strong enough to very easily recognize that these people are the poorest of poor. Like, basically the only way that you could be poorer is if you were like homeless on the street. They have very obviously been hard workers, judging by their overall appearances, the strength that they seem to possess. Even though they look frail, they also seemingly are strong because they were able to move the rocks and boulders and such. And they have workmen's hands, all of them, even though they're not all men. Like, they are very, very obviously people of the soil, so to speak. They grind and till their entire lives. What would you like to do, Zorvir, as these people are helping him down, charmed as they are by his magic?
Right. So he was having them like kind of dig out something to eat because he can tell that they're hungry. First of all, they're obviously attacking out of a need, because why else would they attack, subjects of the Emperor as subjects of the Emperor themselves? But he's very confused because they shouldn't be in this condition anyway. Like, they should be, well off and being taken care of, or, if they have like some kind of situation, they should have had, their taxes would have been put on hold. I mean, granted, they'd have to pay them back at a higher rate later, but they'd be on hold, and like they'd be receiving benefits and stuff. And so he's not really sure why these people are here in this situation. So he begins asking them why they felt the need to attack the caravan.
So he gets a couple of different responses, like, simultaneously, and it's hard for me to speak as 2 people simultaneously. So there's like a moment of 2 of the individuals bursting forth, one of them basically saying, we didn't have a choice, we're starving, our children are starving, we couldn't watch them starve anymore. And then another one is basically saying, overlapping with that, we didn't want to hurt anyone, just to eat, just a little bit to eat, that's all we wanted. As, like, you hold up your hands to get them to calm, because that elicits a very emotional reaction from them in that moment.
One in the background's like, we broke! Like, just, we ain't got no damn money!
We tow up from the flow up.
Right?
Man, it's all fucked up out here.
Well, why didn't you just, submit a form 27757? You could have gotten the aid that you needed.
They all kind of look at each other
We can't read.
and seem very, very confused. One of them has the wherewithal to kind of like he raises his hands a little bit to respond, and like waits for you to look at him before he's like, is that a taxation thing?
It is, because down the road you have to pay it back, but with interest.
Well,
but it helps your families.
I mean, we used to have our own farms and livelihoods, but the Empire's taken all of that away. We've been left with almost nothing. We've been forced into this life.
What is this place?
What do you mean?
Where are we? Maybe we took a wrong turn.
I don't understand.
What is your town called?
Oh, well, most of us are farmers. The nearest town, I mean, there's a couple of them that aren't horribly far off, but I guess the closest 4 or 5 days travel would be Crestfall. But
well, that's within the Empire.
Yes, we are part of the Empire. And he looks at you just as confused as you're looking at him.
While this conversation is going on, I'm going to help them to, be seated and kind of be wary of any other attacks. But
most of the attacks seem to be subsiding at this point and moving further and further away from you.
Okay. I just want to make sure that they get something to eat. They look horrible.
One of them has actually managed to wrest like a chest out of the rubble a bit, and as he's doing that, I will say that this is one of those opportunities where you can kind of see everything going on around you. And the carriage that was in the back was the supply carriage, and the ferryman, the driver of the carriage, had been hiding and is like poking his head up out from underneath of the seat in which he normally rides upon. And you lock eyes with him, and he's fearful, and he's just looking at you in this moment.
You're there. It's okay. Why don't you get out some of the biscuits and honey, and maybe some of the mead?
Yep, yes, sir. And he starts climbing his way out and looks like he's going to. He's looking around for basically somebody to shoot him, but he does start trying to do what you're doing. And that woman that had wrested one of the chests out opens it up, and there's some traveling food, more like bread and tack and cheeses and that sort of thing. And as she sees a hunk of cheese, she just basically just digs into it.
No. Actually, you could have all of that. That's I'm lactose intolerant, so it would be best if you just took it anyway, because I do love me a good cheese.
This kind of triggers a little bit of a chaos moment, we'll say, as all of the peasants that are very obviously starved start grabbing at some of this food and just ravenously digging in. But it also affords you an opportunity that you might be able to start asking some more individualized questions if you have any.
Okay. So I'm kind of looking around at this point. Is there... I don't think he's quite ready to necessarily look at the wreckage of what's happened.
Right.
He's trying to keep this under containment. So he's looking around, essentially trying to get them away from, because this is still dangerous. So he's going to help them
Bear in mind the limitations of your spell, right?
Right.
They're not fully technically charmed by you in the sense of like charm person. You
Right.
had tasked them with having a meal with you and a conversation.
Right.
And that's
I'm,
kind
I'm
of
trying to get them
that's
to a
kind of
place
what
where
they're
they can,
doing right now.
Sit down and have a meal.
Yeah, and that's essentially what you're doing right now. You just happen to be doing it, in the calmest part. Like, if you can think, this might actually be the best spot to even do this in, because you can almost think of this as like the eye of a storm, so to speak. At this stage, because we have technically backtracked in time just a hair, at this stage, the battle is moving away from you in this spot. So moving could trigger potentially things that you don't want, like somebody coming in and attacking, thinking that, you're being attacked or being taken prisoner by, a bunch of peasants or something.
Mhm.
So it almost would behoove you to not move if that's what you're thinking.
Gotcha.
Do you have any individualized questions for them at the moment?
I think I would ask them, when was the last time they paid their taxes?
So there's a little bit of chaos there. One of them responds to your question, and he looks up at you, and there's a hostility in his eyes. Not at you per se, right?
I expect that.
As a tax man.
Right.
And he basically just looks at you and says, "Look, I got nothing. I got a shack, and I got a dead wife 2 seasons ago, and I got a daughter I can't feed. And we know
Do you
we
claim
know this."
your daughter as a dependent?
Oh, fuck you.
No, I'm just I pardon my confusion. I'm trying to understand why this is happening. And
Look,
everything you're telling me.
We know this is wrong, all right? We're not thieves, we're not murderers, but when your belly's empty and your child is looking at you with hunger in their eyes,
But
you
you're
do
farmers.
anything.
But you're farmers. Why don't you just grow your food and?
Because I don't got
pay
a
your
farm
taxes.
anymore. Yeah, the
Why
tax man
not?
took my farm.
Well, that I would have to look at records that I don't have.
Are you calling me a liar?
access to. No, maybe I don't know. This is very flustering.
Try
I
being
don't get out
hungry.
much. I don't get out this far, and my men should be able to answer that question. Where are my men? And I'll start looking around for the golden balance.
At this moment, you don't see any of them, but the carriage driver, comes over, and you see him holding like one of the meal trays that you have been served from dozens of times on this voyage, and it's got like an array of biscuits and honey and some tea steeping and such, and he's just like, he's like 10-15 feet away from the group, and he just like sets it down on the ground and then starts backing away as quietly and slowly as he can.
What is that? Oh, right. I'll go over and pick it up and set it down closer, and then just forget about it.
Yeah, and the peasants that notice it start taking from it too, and start to eat. And one of them, kind of as she's taking one of the rolls and has dipped it in honey and like takes a bite of it, and you see this almost look of ecstasy on her face, as if this is the most phenomenal thing she's ever eaten in her life. And she looks up at you with like a heartfelt, just almost sorrow in her expression, and she just almost starts weeping as she's embracing this food, and she said, "Look, they told us you were hoarding food and that you had enough to share, but you wouldn't. We didn't know if it was true, but this was the only thing that we could do. They told us that it would work.
Who told you this?
The Reclaimed.
Okay, so do I know what
You
a
have no
reclaimed
fucking clue
is?
who the reclaimed are.
Can you elaborate? I don't understand.
The people up at the mountain fort. They come down and help us when they can, and well, one of them came down a couple of weeks ago and said that there was a caravan on the way, and they said that there was an opportunity, and we just had to grab onto that opportunity. We had to strike back. We had to take back what had been taken from us so many times. And as she's saying this, she's like on the verge of tears.
Like I'm kneeling down next to her at this point, and I put my hand on her shoulder, and I begin this like singing in a way that an Aarakocra could, like a bird instead of a person.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to concentrate. Maybe. Hang on. Okay, Math Suggested is not concentration, so I'm going to cast Beacon of Hope.
Okay.
Just to try and... It's really just to help them feel better. It has, like... It has stuff, but unless that stuff comes into play...
I'm familiar with it, so I'll say I think I get your intention here, and I think in this moment, it calms the fella that had been hostile to you a bit.
Mm-hmm.
He's still angry, but he's, you know, he was lashing out at you, but it wasn't because of you, right? If that makes sense. And so now he's just kind of angry to be angry.
Yeah.
Like you think a lot of them probably live their entire day of every day of their life being, and the others, a kind of melancholy sets over them, particularly the woman that had been crying. And you can see several of them are like taking chunks of the food and such and like stuffing it in their pockets and things. They're not all just like gorging themselves with the food. And you also get the sense that your spell might run out soon because they are technically almost done having a conversation with you over a meal. So by the invocation that you elicited, you think that you need to keep asking them questions if you want the spell to keep continuing.
I am going to tell them that they can take that chest of food. In fact, we'll refill it before they take it home. But I'm going to I go over and like I go to sit next to that guy that's angry at me, and then I realize like I can't really sit on the ground the way that people sit on the ground because I've got these things on my back to make it very comfortable. And so I look for like a place as close as possible to sit on something.
There's plenty of debris around, so.
Yeah. And I want to ask him why. I'm an office worker. I don't know if you know what that means, but I haven't gotten out in a very long time, and I don't think I have an actual clear picture of what's going on here. Can you explain to me why tax people took your farms? Because they shouldn't have.
Look, I don't know what people should and shouldn't have done. That's not... I'm a pretty simple man. I can make things with my hands. I can sometimes grow a good crop of corn, and every now and then I can turn that corn into a drink that makes people feel good about themselves. And that's the extent of my knowledge.
That's good, honest work.
Damn right. I thought so too. But the moment you start falling back on your taxes, the moment some noble takes over your lands, the moment you lose everything, you start believing I used to believe in, we all used to believe in the Empire. We always trusted that rulers would do right by us. They'd keep us safe against those barbarians to the north. They'd make sure that things went bad, that there was people to come help. But I don't know, man. 10, 15, 20 years, things have been different. We're suffering. There's so many people out here suffering. They've lost faith. We've all lost faith. Some of us have lost all our faith, even in the Ascendants. And, well, I mean, the Reclaimed, they speak good words. They help us out. They give us things to help us get through whenever they've got it. And they don't got much. But they speak of hope. They speak of rebellion. They speak of a better future. And that's all we want.
So I'm gonna snag that bit about rebellion, file it away, but not say anything. Who was the lord of this land?
Look, I don't even know who the Lord is right now. We've had 7 lords in the past 10 years. 7.
No, none of this makes sense. I'm not saying that you're telling me a lie. I'm saying that this is not right. This is not how the papers that come through my office say it is happening out here. So someone has a lot of paperwork to do. First of all,
you need to stop thinking that everything's about paper. My life is not a word on a piece of paper, my friend. And
Well, I
look,
mean,
I
everyone
appreciate
did.
you giving me some food right now, but you need to understand something, Birdman. You need to understand that life is more than paper. We're more than paper. And all of them kind of simultaneously are looking at you in this moment. Like every single one of them in their sorrow-filled expressions are basically staring at Zorvir as if hoping that he recognizes them, that he sees them. Like he has a good enough passive insight to recognize that if he wants to keep them in this moment, he needs to say something to them. They're all waiting on his word.
He actually is going to get up and like he sees some feathers that are like snapped and crooked and the ones that like aren't going to heal up, and he pulls a fistful of them out, winces, throws them off to the side, lets the spell like fade away. And then turns back towards them to see what they're going to do when they're not charmed.
So as the spell fades off of them and they've completed the task that had been set before them from the suggestion, there's a moment where a couple of them, their anger bursts up. But as they stand up as if ready to fight you, they can see that they've got food in their hands. And they look down at the food, and they look up at you, and they remember everything that just transpired. Right? This isn't like a hazy memory sort of charming effect sort of deal. They know everything that you had just conversed about. And they can see in you that you're not maybe the person that they thought they were attacking. But they still start scooping up the food, and like gathering up a couple of things from the debris that they can very quickly and easily snag that are of value. And they just slowly start walking away from you. The woman that had been almost to tears kind of stops. She has like some of the cheese and stuff in her hand, and she picks through a couple of things, and she walks over to you, and she holds out a hand as if waiting for you to extend your hand as well. And when you do, she places a small piece of bread with a little bit of honey on it in your hand. And she looks up at you and she says, "Sometimes things are just as simple as honeyed bread." And she nods at you and wipes away a tear before turning and walking away.
So I'm looking down at this handful of crumbly honey bread, and I'm gonna look her up and scan the wreckage, and I'm assuming that I don't see any of my compatriots as far as people who would make decisions.
You don't have to, as you're taking in everything, I'm going to say that there's a moment here that Zorvir is just kind of fallen out of time, that he's it's like he's been hit with a truck almost with everything that just happened with him. Barrick and Akris and Cassia have long since run off. He sees a couple of bodies in the rubble of what used to be Akris's carriage. Over there, he's looking around. He sees more bodies laying on the ground. A lot of peasants dead in the vicinity. Dozens that he can see with his very, very sharp eyesight. And emerging from the tree line, one of the Golden Balance soldiers, Steven, emerges, and you can see that there's blood on their sword. They're wiping it away as they sheath it, and then they see you, and they come rushing over to you. And they're like, "Are you okay, sir?"
As Steven gets closer, I hold up my hand, this hand, because this one has bread in it, and I'm gonna turn my head and look over my shoulder at I'd have to turn a little bit, wings. I'll turn a bit and look at them walking away. Just a moment. Wait, please, just a moment. And I'm going to walk to the guy who was very angry with me.
You're going to have to fly to catch up to them.
Sure.
Okay. So they're a good distance away from you at this point, but you have just enough sight to be able to see them. You go flying through the air. They're not running away from you at top speed or anything, so you can fly and catch up to them, particularly if you were to call out to them to say wait. And that would catch at least a couple of them to get you to wait for you.
Okay. As I land, I'll say, I apologize. I don't know what I'm doing out here. The Emperor sent me, and I have no idea why, but this is not what I expected to find. If you wait here, I have something for you.
The two that were standing there, the others have moved on, just kind of look at you. They look back at the soldier that, they had seen fighting people, and they kind of hesitate, but nod at you affirmatively.
I'm seeing if there's anything I can give them that's on me. Soap. I have soap.
So you're a wealthy individual. You've got coin.
Right.
You could easily give them coin.
It seems so cold and.
I mean, do you think that Zorvir is the type that would have any kind of jewelry, like a bangle or a necklace or something?
I mean, most of his stuff has purpose, so all of his.
I meant as ornamentation to his attire.
Right.
Something.
And that's what I'm saying is most of them have purpose. One's a bead of nourishment, one's a bead of refreshment, things like that. He doesn't tend to wear things for decoration so much as purpose. Mm-hmm. He is going to pull off the bead of nourishment and put it in the fellow's hand and just say, please just wait.
Okay. As you do that, he looks down at it, seems confused, but nods.
I think you can eat it. Yeah, you can eat it. It'll fill you full. It's wondrous. You can live off it for the entire day. But save it for some, day that you really need it. And I'll be right back. Or rather, just wait here, and I'll fly back.
They seem confused. and Steven has like walked closer to you as you fly back, and as you land, he comes over to you and says, "Sir, is there anything?"
I'm going to have you take these people home. Can you do that for me?
So these people tried to kill you and us.
I understand, but there's something not right here. There's bad information.
Right? I will follow orders, sir. Just tell me what they are.
I'm gonna go have that fellow. I can't remember his name. I'm sorry. I'm terrible with names that aren't on paper. I'm gonna have that fellow bring the wagon down here, and you just take the wagon and these people back to their homes.
Are you sure that's what they want, sir? They may not
These
want.
people?
They may not want me to know where they live.
Oh, I see.
No offense, sir. All of us in this vicinity have tried to kill each other recently.
Well, I don't understand. When you come back, go with them as far as they're comfortable with you going with them, and then come back. I have a feeling we'll still be here picking up this mess, but I think I'm going to need to speak with each of you, and you're going to have to really catch me up with some honesty.
Not sure you're going to want that, sir. At least not from me. Maybe ask Sasha if you can find her. And he just, like, walks off towards those individuals. You can tell that he's not pleased about the orders that... or they are not pleased about the orders they have been given.
Okay, which confuses me even more. And I tilt my head in that bird manner, and then kind of shake it and go and get my... or I go to the wagon.
Yeah. So, we are about to cut to break, because we are past our midway point, but I want to catch everyone up with a little bit of detail that we haven't been able to touch on in this narrative so far. So, just so you are all aware, Bastion had perished, but you have resurrected him. Reese also perished. Borvir perished. Kendra, missing a bit of a leg, has managed to come back. Joram was saved as well. Liv, however, did not get saved. Lord Burrows, Carrick, Jacerin, and Vidania have all deceased. Grimby, Faerun, and Beauregard are also all deceased. Some of those perished from being inside of a carriage that got crushed, and short of Cassia finding some additional spell components, I doubt that they can be brought back. And a few of the others were killed by the peasant assailants that had been attacking you for starvation. As you are all picking up and coming back together, and everyone is kind of returning, the survivors of this onslaught, returning to this disaster site that is your caravan of carriages, you all have some talking to do with one another, I think. But we're going to leave that for after the break. So, we will return in 5 minutes' time, hopefully as close to 5 minutes as we possibly can. We're going to let everybody catch their breath from this dramatic moment. And we will see you all in hopefully 5 minutes. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We have returned from our short break there to come back to the drama that is everyone finding out their dearest loved ones are dead for seemingly no real reason whatsoever. although some of them did get brought back, and some people might just be confused about what those reasons were. In any case, we are going to jump back into the fray. I am assuming Barrick is strong enough to carry Bastion back. Yeah.
He's old, but he's not that old, you know?
I can empathize. So we will bring us back to basically everyone returning to the scene of the crime, so to speak, as the rampant destruction of your caravan finally becomes clear. The survivors that I had not mentioned as we departed just before our break, where I talked about all of the people that had perished, the survivors that were not in this list do come through, returning to the site as well. Zorvir, this is probably just moments after you find out Beauregard and Farron particularly were basically inside of the carriage with you, and it should have you probably are thinking I should have realized that sooner, but this is what
I think
you
it's
find.
less that, so much more like he understands that he is like pretty much a clerk at this point. Like he was in the military for a while, but like he should of anyone in that carriage, he probably should have been the one not to survive. And so if he survived, he was like, they should be fine, and he just didn't even think about it. But that's not how physics really work.
Yeah. That's not how death saving throws work either.
Right.
So yes, as you are all coming together, and some of the other individuals that had survived are present with you, there is a general air, like it's almost an eerie silence in a way, as like nobody is talking, and they're of the NPCs, I mean, that are around you. Nobody really wants to say anything. There's a few mumbles here and there from people like helping dig through the rubble, and someone mentions, oh, we should probably go into Acris's carriage and retrieve this or that, or something that had been stored in it that they're going to need. There's this like unspoken like deflation that is occurring as everyone realizes that 4 of your 6 carriages have been destroyed, right? You have lost 2/3 of the horses that you had. And so there's a little bit of like wondering amongst everyone, what do we do now, sort of deal. And it seems like there's a few furtive glances and eyes being directed Barrick's way, by the way, seemingly looking for leadership.
Yeah, and he's not a stranger to this terrible moment. He'll obviously place Bastion down somewhere, and then just say, everyone,
Well, hey now, before we get into that, thank you so much, Guild Superior, for the raid.
Hey.
Welcome, Raiders.
Yeah.
We are
Good to see you.
just coming to terms with a bunch of friendly NPCs getting murdered, and the aftermath of a disastrous assault that had occurred on our party's fairly large caravan of themselves and entourages heading east. You were saying, Beth?
So anyone who is close enough to him would kind of see that Barrick has this thing going on where he, you can see like the moment his emotions switch to just sort of shock and sort of reeling from the grief that he had felt and the surprise of his friend being resurrected, and then his face will switch to leadership business mode, and it kind of wavers back and forth, but he'll address the group, and then just sort of I'm very glad that you all made it. And I'm very sorry for those that we lost. We need to rest, to tend to our wounds, and then we need to tend to our dead. And they can't be left like this. So let's take a moment. Let's address our wounds. Let's see what we can do to get ourselves right, and then we go to work. And he'll kind of walk around with I think I have just have a regular water skin. Yeah, he'll hand out his water skin to anyone nearby, and you know.
It's about this time that I've like pulled Beauregard out, and I'm like folding his hands over his chest and making him, in my mind, making him comfortable, because he always liked to be comfortable. That I'm going to message Barrick. So in your head you hear, Sir Barrick, I need to have a word with you. Would you have a free moment?
You don't get an actual verbal response in your head, but from looking at him, you see him nod as he's attending to other tasks, and he'll come over to speak with you.
If we could step away from here, please.
Yes.
No, I'll like lead him off somewhere that's away from everyone.
There's plenty of places that could be done.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a brief conversation. He kind of zones out for a minute and is like staring at Beauregard, and then he blinks. I'm sorry. I had a brief conversation with some of the farmers. There's a castle nearby. Do you know of this stronghold?
I do. I don't know that it's much of a stronghold anymore, but yes, it's near.
Well, seeing as we are now ill-equipped to continue in the fashion we were, one, it might be a place for us to head to, but also I know we were looking for signs of rebellion, and I don't think these people chose to do this themselves, or rather they were put up to it by what they called the reclaimed.
The reclaimed?
They said that.
They did.
It's interesting. Are you familiar with that group?
I have we have some reclamation documents and in my service, but I don't know. I don't think that has anything to do with these people.
The reclamation has changed over time. They were a group of mercenaries initially that were hired out because they were expendable, and were thrown into battle with the barbarians, and over time that sort of shifted. They weren't the most altruistic group in their history, but this doesn't quite, I don't know if it feels right.
It's so much of this doesn't make sense to me, and I feel like before we go any further, we need to determine what is the truth.
That's a good plan.
Like these people that I gesture off, kind of generically, but off the way that they went. These people, they say that their lands have been taken from them, their farms, their lives. And that doesn't make any sense. There have been no tax forms, there have been no land ownership forms come through my office that has said this. I don't understand.
None of it makes sense, and it never has. This is a more extreme case than we're used to seeing, but people have had their land taken from them for a long time and have been forced to the outskirts to fend for themselves and to be forgotten. And that's not new. I've seen it.
No.
All over.
No. The Empire is here to protect the people because the people are the Empire.
They are. But I don't know if that's what's happening. Truly.
Well, now that we're here, we can make sure that this is set right.
I'd like
It's
to.
a good thing the Emperor sent us.
His face darkens when you say that.
What is my passive insight?
And he goes kind of quiet.
Oh, 21.
Yeah, you absolutely know that he is feeling some guilt, I guess, for
Okay.
kind of being a catalyst of this situation.
Oh, friend, I apologize, and I'll put my hand on your shoulder. This isn't your fault. It's someone was going to have to come out here, and we are better equipped than most. I mean, it has been more than a handful of years since I've left the office, but I am very glad to be here with you. And I think that whatever happens, it was meant to be that we are here to put this right.
There's more than we can do on our own, but it's a start. I think
There will most assuredly be a reckoning for something that has happened here. Certainly.
Where did you come from?
I've been standing right there the entire time, friend. I will admit that your conversation was a bit clouded to me when it first began, but now you talk with your mouths moving and sound coming out, so now I know what you're saying, so...
Fred DeVellion, I'm glad that you are all right. Is your entourage safe? Are your friends safe?
I'm glad I'm all right as well. I will honestly tell you that my entire entourage was just slain in that attack. Luckily, my paramour was out trying to scout around the outside perimeter of the area here, and she avoided her own demise. But the rest of my party have been slain to a very person. Actually, I'm rather concerned. It would seem that Vidania was actually killed by some sort of skilled blade. It wasn't just someone attacking willy-nilly like some sort of peasant, like these others that luckily you, dispatched. It would seem there was a higher calling. I suspect that perhaps these peasants are being funded or perhaps dealt with by a higher power.
I'll glance at Barrick.
Do you have any insight as to who exactly?
Well, if my ears do not deceive me, I believe I just heard you speak about the Reclaimed, did you not?
Oh, yes, apparently they are settled in a nearby stronghold. A ruin, I guess? Is that right, Barrick?
That's right.
Sorry, Sir Barrack. I would always call you Sir Barrack.
Don't.
In a nearby establishment, you say? Well, that's entirely vexing. They're not exactly the kind of people that we want to associate ourselves with. I would dare say that if they are here, they could perhaps be the very ferrets that we seek out for this rebellion. Do you know the history of the Reclaimed and how they came to be to have power in this place?
I know of them. I don't know the most recent information.
I have a feeling this is something that you could tell us around a warming fire, and I can have some tea.
Very well. It would be prudent for me not to have to repeat myself when the other two arrive. Is Acris a sir, Lord Barrick? Should I refer to him as such, or is he simply Acris is enough, or?
You should refer to him as Sir.
Sir Acris! Priestess Cassia, if you could perhaps join us. We are about to have a bit of a lesson, as it were. It would seem that once again, my higher powers of deduction are going to be brought into purpose here, so.
Acris looks over at Cassia and goes, Sir Acris?
I think it suits you.
Okay. Oh, well.
As we kind of like walk back to the group and get together, and I try to like kind of herd Develian towards like an area where we can sit rather than standing around in like this open field. Do I see Sasha anywhere?
Sure. She'd be probably tending to at this point Steven has returned, so she and Steven are probably tending to Grimby and Farron.
Okay. I'm a little concerned about what Steven said, and so I just really want to keep an eye on her. So if she does anything weird while this is happening, especially after the one of Develian's peoples being dispatched by somebody skilled enough to do so. There's a lot of thoughts running through my head right now, so he's just kind of keeping an eye out while Develian tells us this. I'm sure it's going to be a fascinating tale.
Yeah, so at this point, you guys, a few short beats pass as you guys are basically setting up a space that you can all converse, and you give some instructions to some of the other individuals around you to make sure that things are still being tended to and such. All of the bodies of people have been retrieved at this point, so folks are starting to be like wrapped up in bedrolls and the like, in order to care for them in an honorable way, so to speak. And you all have an opportunity to continue this parent lesson by Develian.
So I will motion for them all to sit, and then I will stand, I will cross my arms behind my back, and I will say, for those of you who do not know of the query that we now are being hunted by, the Reclaimed are seeking to make their presence known here. I will not lie when I say that they have a storied and historied past, one that I cannot simply go into all of the detail about here. We do not have the time nor the resources, and who knows, we might be attacked by some falling boulders again. We only have 2 carriages left. I'd rather not have them destroyed as well. I mean, luckily one of them held all of the alcohol, so that is not gone, but...
Develian, please. I think our heads hurt enough from the attack.
Right you are, Sir Acris, right you are. Then I shall be brief. I believe the Reclaimed might perhaps be the funnel, if not the entire power behind this rebellion that we seek. The Reclaimed are a mercenary group, enigmatic with their storied past. They are comprised of individuals who at some point or another have been cast out or marginalized by our society for being not right. Their ranks are filled with former criminals, ex-slaves, battle-hardened soldiers who would do nothing but to have their steel be wet with enemy blood once more. Once upon a time, they simply were tolerated or perhaps even put into their positions by those who needed their skills. But they have grown restless, and they have even grown bold. They have been known to rebel before in the past. They exploit the turmoil and desperation of the common folk, beguiling them with words of promises of a better life if they overthrow the status quo. They can portray themselves as champions of the downtrodden, but they are not any such thing. The reclaimed are demons in human and non-human form. Make no mistake, they are evil, and they should be stopped, especially if they are funneling power, if not funds and or people, into this rebellion that wishes to overthrow our government. The Emperor will want them quashed, and therefore so will I. If I must, I will hunt them down to the last person, my very self. But I believe all of us are suited for this purpose. How far away did you say that they were, Zorvir?
I don't know exactly. Sir Barrick knows more about where this ruin lies.
It's at the base of a mountain, correct?
It's built into the side of the mountain if
The
you're
side.
referring to the ramparts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about 7 or 8 days on foot from here.
Okay. Yeah, I'll relay that.
So Develian stares off in that direction, almost wistfully, and he says, "Then I believe fate is drawing us ever closer to Cresswell. It would seem that I have been right about this from the very beginning.
It's
I would
worth,
like to
it's
say
worth mentioning, Barrick, you would know that that is not where Crestfall is. That
Yeah.
the ramparts are technically in a different direction. They're nearby, obviously, but
Yeah,
it is technically a different direction from Crestfall.
I won't correct him. I'll just let him keep going.
Okay.
I would dare say that it does not bring me great pride or even pleasure to know that I have been correct in who is attacking our empire, but it will bring me pleasure to bring them down. So, what shall we do about this, Lord Barrick? You are in charge of our merry band here, and apparently have had the least amount of casualties amongst your entourage, so tell us, what shall we do now?
He takes a steadying breath. We need to rest. We need to get back in fighting shape before we can hope to meet up with this band of murderers who have numbers greater than ours. And you may or may not be right about who they are and if they are indeed the rebels that we're talking about, if they are in line with these farmers.
But look at what has transpired here. Do you believe these peasants that we slayed out of self-defense had the wherewithal to stage something such as this? Surely they have a higher power, someone who is skilled at strategy and attacks of ambush.
Okay.
Sir
Sure.
Barrick here was telling me that this group of bandits has not been known for their altruism, and yet the folks I was speaking with said that they were the ones who have been helping them to find food and essentially survive out here now that their lands have been illegally taken from them. I feel like maybe we should. On the one hand, I would like to know more about them. Perhaps from them we could have a parlay, or if it is them that have set up these poor people and taken their lands, maybe these are the people. These reclaimed are the ones who are illegally seizing lands and blaming it on the innocent empire.
Did Zorvir let us know about the conversation they had with the peasants?
I think at least briefly, like maybe super overview, but mostly to Barrick.
Let's. From what I know of strategy, we need to lay out every piece of information. We've got to use what we've learned here and piece things together. So, Zorvir, you have to go through and tell us exactly what they said, because we need to put these pieces together before we can do anything.
They said that the Empire is taking their lands and push them out from their homes, and I've never seen paperwork come through my office that says anything of the like. And when I say this, I do glance quickly over at Sasha just to see what she does.
She's not listening to this. You guys are having this conversation very privately.
Okay.
Relatively privately.
I mean, from what I know with my family and like the expansion of their exports, not a lot of people from within the Empire know what exactly is going on. I mean, that's why they have distant nobles who handle this. I mean, the only reason why I know about it is when I was younger, I saw my mother and father handle this. So it's not too surprising that you may not know what's going on. I mean, like you said, you just handle the paperwork, not people.
Cassia, and you notice when Barrick speaks your name, but he doesn't look at you. Have you read anything in particular about this group that would be useful here?
Make a history check if you like, Deb.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
24.
Okay. Before we record that result, out of curiosity, how much military history do you think Cassia has read? Because that's more in line of what this would be.
Probably not a lot.
Okay, I'm gonna still let you roll, but I'm gonna make you roll at a disadvantage.
Okay, no problem.
Not that I think you're gonna fail, because your fucking history bonus is stupid, but
it's real high. That was better, 26. So 24 was
okay. We'll stick to the 24.
Lord.
Just a 24. High level play, guys. Just so you guys know, these players are all what level? 14?
14.
Yeah,
14.
A billion.
Cassia has indeed heard of this organization before, particularly in some texts from maybe 30 years ago or so, where they basically were notorious for being as bloodthirsty as the people from the wild tribe lands that they were fighting. When the Empire was willing to basically hire this mercenary band to go into the tribe lands and wreak havoc, she's read a few disturbing tidbits of the carnage that they were responsible for, because it caused debate in the political spheres in Vastharis, amongst like members of the Senate, that they were debating on whether or not they should keep hiring this organization, right? Eventually the Emperor was the one basically saying, we're absolutely hiring these people. We're going to hire them to die before our own soldiers do every day that we possibly can. And that eventually has led them to be very, very diminished and no longer a strong enough mercenary force to be actual mercenaries, before they started doing things like recruiting criminals and like ex-convicts and things like that. And so now this organization are basically little more than criminals and a handful of like military soldiers and the like. And don't think that she would necessarily know the ins and outs of the crimes that they commit, but she would have a sense that they do in fact often commit crimes in the area but it's not enough usually to garner much attention from the very, very lacking of resources portions of the Aegis battalions that are out here. This is just so far out, right? They might even outnumber the Aegis battalions. The century of soldiers that you guys, have a couple of weeks behind you all, that's probably more soldiers than have been out here for quite a number of years.
Military history is not my particular area of expertise. I know some of this organization. They have quite a bloodthirsty history and are now mostly comprised of criminals who haven't necessarily attracted the wrath of the Empire yet, but...
Give me a wisdom check or an insight check, Zorbier.
That's a 20.
Dirty 20. Assuming dirty 20 and not natural 20.
Very dirty 20.
Okay. Dirty 20.
Dirtiest
I think
20
it would
ever.
kind of click over in Zorvier's head as he's been taking in all of this information with having the more firsthand accounts of what the peasants had told him, that the peasants were probably being used by this organization. That I wanted to put that out there in case you haven't made that connection yet, Jeremy, that Zorvier certainly would feel like such a group are probably not as altruistic as the peasants seem to think that they are.
Right.
And this organization is taking advantage of the peasants' status.
Like whether they're giving them food or not, which I can only assume the peasant was telling me the truth, but it's probably just to help stoke the fire.
Right. That they may not necessarily be responsible for taking these people's lands and putting them in their shit situations that they're in, but they are probably very responsible for the slaughter that just happened.
Yeah. I will convey that back to you. Oh.
Lord Beric, and Devalian will actually step closer to him. If I may beseech you, these people will not just stop at having peasants try to eliminate us. They will strike out at the very heart of the Empire. They will strike out against the very heart of our people. Your sons, your daughters, your wife. They will stop at nothing until they are all gone. We must eradicate them. In the name of the Empire, of course.
They are a problem. And we do need to do something about them. I don't, at this point, necessarily believe that they are too far from the Empire in terms of their ideology. I mean, these people were already starving, but what kind of group helps starving people find food when they themselves are already fed? They could help. Instead, they send starving people out to their death because they're not equipped to handle a group like ours. I don't know. I know that we need to go to this fortress, the rampart, and we need to have a conversation. I do believe that we need to take some time before we do this, because our initial plan was to infiltrate the rebellion and have a conversation, gather information, but this group is more bloodthirsty than we can handle, and their numbers might be small, but so are ours. So I think we need to slow down. Just a little bit.
We do have a century of soldiers arriving not long after us. We could wait for them.
I don't know if we can wait that long.
They're a couple weeks out. It's too long to sit here and wait.
So as you guys are having this conversation, a exhausted, beleaguered, recently resurrected and weary Bastion makes his way towards your group, kind of limping a little bit. He's basically leaning heavily upon Zolan as he makes his way over and clears his throat. And he says, "Sir?" And he's looking at Barrick, and there's like a slight curl to the side of his lip as he says it.
Go on.
I apologize, everyone. I don't know much about what you're talking about here. I'm assuming it's making plans and such, and I thought I would offer a little bit of insight into something that you may or may not be considering before you make any final decisions. If that's all right.
Please.
And he looks back at the very, very heavily injured, several of whom were dead earlier in the day, people that are around you all, as well as the bodies as well. And he says, "I will go with this man," and he kind of gestures to Barrick, "to the ends of the earth. I will walk from one side of the continent to the other if it means keeping him safe. And a lot of these people are following all of you for probably similar reasons. Or at least a handful of them are anyway. Because some of those people are probably dead now. Some of these people need to get safe. They need to be someplace better and safe. And if it's not too much trouble, my friend," as he looks at Barrick with almost sorrow-filled eyes, "I want to get them safe before anything else happens."
Agreed.
It's probably the first idea we've heard today that actually made some sense.
But where will you take them?
We have enough horses for all of you to get to the next town expediently, if that's where you're headed, or whatever direction you might want to go. And there's 2 carriages. We can dump enough supplies and such to potentially make it back. I mean, we're not, but maybe a few weeks travel off, I guess, from Tenora. At the very least, we might be able to intercept the sentry that's on its way and get them to escort some people back, and if that's the case, then I can return with the sentry at my back to follow in your path as they are commanded, and I will lead them. But these people, I think this is more than they can handle. And I know you are tasked with the Emperor's commands, and I would never, in all my years of wisdom, question the Emperor commanding you to do something. So you've got to do what you have to do. But right now, I feel like I have to take these people back safe. And that's what I'm going to do. Come morning, as long as no one objects, I'd like to take the 2 carriages with us and head back.
Anything you need. And I'll just sort of, clasp his shoulder and
He almost crumples.
hold him up a bit, yeah.
You did that on purpose, didn't you, you fuck?
Come on, old man.
You're older.
I am.
Doesn't that mean you're supposed to have more wisdom than me?
That's never been true.
I don't know. I let you marry my sister. I can't have
Let
too
me
much
do
wisdom.
anything. That is fair. Well, I guess we take the advice of a formerly dead man. Rest up and then move out.
He just kind of nods, looks at each of you in turn. His eyes rest on Akris for a few moments, and he tilts his head back in the direction of Akris's companions, paying particular attention to Kendra. And he looks at Akris and says, "I'll get her home safe. I'll see what can be done."
Thank you. Whatever she needs. If my name holds any weight, just use that. And then he reaches into his pocket, and within all of this skirmish and craziness, he hands him a folded note, and he goes, "When she's safe, when she's well rested, make sure she gets this."
He takes the note. You know, she's literally 35 feet that way. You could hand this to her yourself.
I'm willing to rush into the woods chasing ravaging peasants and ride on a horse into what seems to be mysterious destruction, but there are some things that are still a bit scarier.
Understood. And he puts it in his pouch. I'll make sure she gets it.
Thank you.
And he nods at Cassia, and there's an almost depressive quality about the look in his eyes, and you can tell that it's like he doesn't know what could possibly be said to you in response to what transpired earlier, and he just doesn't say anything, but we're kind of turning away from all of you and leaning once again on Zolan to head back to the rest of the group.
As that conversation was happening, the person that you were sending the note off to is the one who lost her leg, correct?
Yeah.
At this point, Zorvir would notice.
Oh,
because he's still
it wasn't
picking
secret at all.
Right. Well, he's been picking up things that have been obvious, but his brain has been turning a lot of it off. Oh my
Sometimes Zorvir doesn't see the
gods.
stuff right in front of his face, does he?
Right.
He's like the bird that can't focus. His eyes occasionally drift too far to the sides.
Right. Oh my god, that woman's lost her leg. And he'll start walking that direction, and he'll open up his coat and reach into his pocket and pull out a ridiculously large decanter of water and kneel down next to her, and he's just talking. And he pours some water on his hands and rubs it on and begins massaging the stump of her leg, which begins
As
to
you
glow.
approach, she jerks away from you.
Right?
What the fuck? What are you doing?
Oh no! Trust me. I've done this at least once on a cow. It was completely successful.
I do believe it is customary to take her out to a fine dinner beforehand, Zorvir.
Well, I'd like her to be able to walk to it, and
That
I will
is
stab you.
preferable as well, but
Akris looks at Devalian. I will stab you. Stop.
and this water begins to glow and kind of as I'm massaging but kind of drawing towards myself, you all notice that the water is pulling her flesh and regrowing her leg.
Which
cast
spell are you casting?
Regenerate.
Okay.
What?
So partly because of the shock of it, and partly because of like my own interpretation of how I think regenerate should work,
Yeah.
she starts screaming in agony
Yeah.
and like grabbing at her leg and just pain.
Don't worry.
Tremendous
How
amounts
did
of
those
pain.
two?
I grab both of her hands and go, "It's okay. No, it's this is a good thing."
No, Cal wasn't quite so vocal about it.
All of you bear witness to Zorvir enacting this spell, and Kendra slowly over the course of
2 minutes.
2 minutes
Ow.
Later on, he'll see the leg that had been cut off laying somewhere else, and he'll be like, "Oh, well, if you had just told me."
Jesus.
yeah, and there's a massive amount of pain and agony and suffering. I imagine some folks are just like, what the, and like some people are
Right.
just like, I'm out, and just like walks away. And
Not today.
And if she's down hit points, she's going to get 28 of them back.
she
Also,
didn't have 28 hit points.
Yeah.
So.
so after the horrendous experience of regrowing a limb over the course of 2 minutes, she should feel better.
There's some mental stuff here that might take more than a couple of minutes to reconcile.
Right.
In
right.
that she had died, somehow managed to get brought back, her leg was gone, and now it's being regrown back. So even if like she does technically feel better physically in the
Right.
moment, right? There's a difference in her recovery process. She absolutely
Kendra's different.
yeah, she absolutely can't thank you for this experience. Not right now anyway. Maybe
That's
after
okay. I don't
maybe after
expect
some
that.
time you'll get a reaction other than get him the fuck away from me. But yeah,
He's had that reaction before.
I mean,
Right.
I'm sure this is not the first woman that has had that experience with Zorvir. The circumstance does kind of subside, but there's a lot of awkwardness to people being around Zorvir, more so than previously.
I just
After
like
he did this,
clap her on the shoulder or back or whatever. I'm like, "Good job," and I'll like look at everyone and smile in the way that only an Aarakocra can smile.
and Akris prevents her from like punching you in response to clapping her on the shoulder.
Hey, it's okay. It's okay. It's really. Does anybody anybody put her to sleep?
Right? Yeah, I was trying to think of something that might be able to help her with the pain, but nope, he's not that kind of guy. He's got nothing.
Nice.
What? She's human, correct?
Half elf.
Half elf.
Half elf. Okay.
But
Yeah. I think after that, I stand up and I look at Barrick and I go, surprisingly, still easier than writing that note.
I can sympathize.
all right then. So, in the interest of time, unless there's something that any of you have to do, I'm going to, or would like to do, I should say, I'm going to narrate a little bit before we close out our session here. If that's all right. So,
I want to do one quick thing.
sure.
Since everybody is departing to go with the gentleman, name escapes me. I'm so sorry.
Bastion.
Bastion, thank you. I wanted to call him Bertrand, and I knew that was wrong. Since
There's a
Bastion
lot
is
of
going
B.
on,
I'm not going
It's
to
a
chastise you
never-ending
because there's a
story.
lot of B
It's a lot of B
names in this group.
B's and E's and S's. There's a lot. Yeah.
a group of NPCs. Like literally, there are more
Yeah.
names that begin with B than any other letter.
Yes.
Right. As pretty much everybody except for us seemingly is departing with Bastion, I'm going to go up to Ohana, and if anybody looks over, they'll see that we're having a moment. We're talking hushed amongst ourselves. I'm going to give her something and just kind of be very discreet about everything. If anybody does overhear, they're going to hear me, because I know we've got super crazy, ridiculous passive perceptions here. They're going to hear me say to her, "Go safely. Know what needs to be done. Watch over your pearls." Then he'll just kind of give her a knowing look, and then he'll rejoin the others.
Okay.
my pearls.
Mama needs her pearls. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to like shoot down your plan. I would like to know what Sasha has to say.
Oh no, okay. Hang on, let me think here. Oh right, about like the peasants and the real world. Okay. Do you want to roleplay that out for a second?
I mean, how
it is a role-playing game,
right? Sure, I've got my dice. What do I roll?
But it is also 3 hours.
Right. So I would just ask her what it is that Steven meant, and if you just want to give me the cliff notes.
Sure. Okay. So the cliff notes are this. She is much more willing. Sasha, that is, not Steven, is much more willing to be direct with Zorvir. She's always had that kind of blunt quality about her, almost to a fault, right? And in this moment, I think she basically sits him down and says that his understanding of the law is very incomplete.
What? He is shocked. I'm not, but he is shocked.
And she goes into fairly great detail about how the nobility are responsible for the laws of the lands in which they control. And there are many, many, many circumstances in which people can lose their entire livelihoods, because it's not just the taxes that Zorvir is responsible for that get collected. It's also the taxes that everyone else collects from them too. And the notion, well, I'll let you actually relate what Zorvir thinks in response to learning, because he had to have known that other taxes get collected, but maybe not to the extent of it.
Right. Yeah, Zorvir definitely has this impression that the Empire is there to protect the people, and this is not protecting the people. And because without the people, there is no Empire. There's just a dude on a throne. And
she would also probably clarify to you that many of these people are not technically of the Empire. Most of these people were conquered. They might be a generation or two removed from them being conquered.
Right.
But the cultures out here are not the cultures that Zorvir's understanding of.
Oh yeah, and Zorvir has this impression that these people are thankful for the protection that the Empire has given them. Sorry, I just hit the mic if that was loud. That we have, offered to them, and to learn that is not the case whatsoever. Yeah, that's a new world perspective that he's going to have to learn to deal with before next week.
He might have a couple of weeks to deal with that. We'll see. Because next week, well, we'll get to that.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
To wrap things up a little bit narratively and to keep things moving along,
thank you.
The rest of your entourages pile up into the carriages. There's a good bit of goods and supplies still left for them to make the journey back, and they are able to leave all of you with a couple of weeks each of supplies as well. Certainly for some of you, the experience that you're going to have over the next several days is more roughing it than you might have ever thought of, but you do in fact say your goodbyes to the rest of your entourages. There is a little bit of consternation maybe from the the Golden Balance soldiers who technically were tasked with protecting Zorvir, in which he basically has to order them to just go. He has protection, and now knowing that he can survive a avalanche of boulder and tree, and some of them can't, he maybe wonders who was protecting who. And eventually, after those goodbyes are said, a lot of you venture off initially towards the direction of Crestfall, before Barrick politely reminds, or maybe impolitely reminds, Develian that he doesn't actually know where these this group known as the Reclaimed are actually at, because it's not Crestfall. And you eventually do find yourselves on the right path, walking a familiar path, a path that will say seems very familiar to Barrick. Obviously familiar in such a way that the rest of you might want to question Barrick about that next week. But eventually you do make your way along this path, several days travel before a mountain site comes into view. And that mountain site looks like this. You traverse several days up the way where snow is actually present. Now, you're coming out of winter at this point, so seeing snow is not necessarily a new experience for any of you per se, but the temperature definitely drops as you make your way up these mountains. And seeing this site at a great distance, you start to wonder, A, how is it sacked to begin with? That's another story Barrick might be able to tell. And B, how are you going to get there without necessarily being seen? And then C, what's your plan here? And these are all questions that can get asked next week.
I do have one thing to interject. Just a very short, not really role-playing between us, just me doing a thing. And that is, as the entourages are leaving, I kneel down and I give Angus some scruffy rubs and put my head against his and tell him sorry that his master, who died but he survived, Angus the dog, survived.
He did in fact survive. He was not listed amongst the dead.
Let's go.
Completely, because you did not ask me that question earlier, I completely forgot my prompt for the little puppy dog. But it was close. I'll have
Congratulations, guys! We just won D&D.
Yes.
The dog lives.
The dog lives.
The question is, are you bringing the dog with you? Or is he going back with the entourage?
Send him home.
Yeah, I'm going to send it with Steven. And
like a responsible role-playing party?
Right. I give Steven some extra money to make sure that if he doesn't want to take care of Angus, that he is able to care for Angus long enough to find a good home for him.
Steven will take care of Angus. He might be a little bit of a prick, but he's not that much of a prick. But yes, that is where we are going to call it for today. We will pick up next week to find out what our group decides to do against the Reclaimed. In the meantime, while everyone is mulling all of that over, let's go ahead and tell everyone who you are and what you are and where you can be found and all of that sort of thing. We shall switch things up here, and we will start with Kevin. Kevin, why are you here?
I am here. Yeah, I am Kevin. I can be found online at the socials at Kevran Games. I am one of the members of the stream team over here on Wanderer's Haven, along with Jeremy, Beth, and Miko. I'm not sure if that lined up with the way I'm pointing, but that's
okay.
That's how they are on my screen.
Right.
And I do a bunch of different games here. And also, when I'm not here on Fridays, you can find me on the Lanat Eterna channel on Twitch, where we do a really cool, grim, dark, high fantasy story. We have our own episode 3 coming out this Friday. They're having a cool murder mystery. We called it CSI Medulla's Rock, or whatever it's called. But,
CSI Medulla's
good
Rock.
times. yeah, come check that out. But yeah, this was a pleasure. Thank you so very much for having me back, everybody. Thanks.
Yeah, glad to have you. Deb, the resurrector, the bringer back of souls.
Yes, indeed.
life
Surprise
bringer.
resurrection. I'm Deb. I am, here and there on the streams. It's been a blast playing with this group so far. I'm really excited to see where the story goes. I'm on Instagram at @dsweats. There's pictures of cats and things that I do outside. So, that's super fun.
And you are not some dude from Texas.
That's true. I'm not on Twitter.
Jeremy,
Yes.
I keep inviting you back to these things. I hope you're having fun.
I mean, I feel like I'm emotionally scarred. I feel like Zorville will figure out that he's emotionally scarred at some point. I'm Jeremy.
I mean, to be fair, he had emotional scars before this point
Right.
that he's been
right.
ignoring, so it's perfectly in character for him to continue ignoring his
Yeah,
emotional
we're
scars.
not going to forget about that whole scene. Jeez.
If you want some emotional scarring, go watch episode 1.
And then
right?
stick around for when episode 6 comes around and all that comes to bite him in the ass. Sorry, spoilers.
I think I'm going to be sick that game. I'm Jeremy. You can find me here when streaming more and more these days. You can also head over to Twitter at WHPubs or go to WH Publications to see what I have published and what I will have publishing soon. Yay!
Awesome. Thank you so much. Lovely.
Thank you.
Lovely to have you and your scarred self, character here to play. Beth!
Hey, I'm Beth. I play Barrick. Thanks, Deb, for saving my bestie. You can find me on social media at Beth Masco. You can find me here on the Wanderer's Haven channel, playing games, helping with stuff,
Producing games.
having a good time. Yes, we'll see how that goes.
Stick around Saturday, by the way, for Star Trek this Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern, where Beth is going to delve into the world of actual producing things.
I hope that you come to watch the stream, and by that I mean I hope that the stream is watchable.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
We'll
awesome.
see.
Starship battles, baby.
It's gonna be great. Yeah, this is great. I need to go to sleep now.
I feel like I'm going to
Emotionally
tune in.
exhausted.
I'm just going to randomly, stop by, tune in, and it's just going to be like, the starting soon screen with a hot mic of Beth going, fuck!
What? Oh shit! What was that button again? Oh,
Yep.
oh no, that didn't work. Oh shit! Oh, I just deleted it all. Fuck! Oh no!
I just deleted it all. Oh,
I'm not down to clown after all. Oh!
The next thing you see on my Instagram is a picture of me in Mexico on a beach shortly thereafter.
Just remember,
No.
Control Z is your friend. It technically works.
Yeah,
wow, she got to Mexico real quick.
yeah.
It's like she had a ticket already in her pocket.
Ready to go.
One of those standbys.
And last but not least, my oos, your oos, everybody's oos. Ian, please, sir,
Hey.
tell us who you are and where people can find you and all the great things that you do.
Hey, I'm Ian. You can find me on all social media at your boy Big. And of course, I played Eris Shortjocken, the very young and very confused Dragonborn warlock with a splash barbarian. But I'm super excited, and I will make sure. No, I'm never going to miss another one of these sessions because it is awesome to play with all of you guys. Yeah, of course, I'll be here for the rest of the campaign. My TTRPG life just got real busy, so yeah, Wednesdays I'm here vibing. Thursdays for the next 3 weeks I'll be on the Mad RPG channel playing Hunter the Reckoning. I play one of the hunters there. Werewolves, vampires, going to be dope. Fridays I'm going to have something coming up real soon, super excited about that. Sundays I will be over on Time Lord's Wife channel playing in her Draken Rider game, playing a wood elf named Eris. I just realized that both these characters have the same name. And then, of
Well,
course,
technically, this one's name is Acris.
Acris. Yeah, I messed up one time and said his name was Eris when we were over there, and I went, or Acris over there. I was like, that's not right. Right. And then, of
It
course, Sunday nights. Actually, no, I'm sorry. We just finished our finale for the Magic RPG channel for Icewind Dale. We'll keep an eye out for that, too. Also, if you're heading to Gen Con in August, I'll be there, too. So come hang out with your boy.
Dude, I wish I had gotten to go to Gen Con this year. Maybe
last thing,
next year.
too. Hit up emergent code on because if I don't say this, they'll kick me in the butt. Hit up emergent code on all of your podcast streaming platforms. If you like Digimon, we play that, so it's pretty good. Actual play podcasting. So I'm
definitely check out Ian and all of these fine people. Hit up their socials. They are absolutely deserving of all of the praise and the follows that people can give. I have been Miko, otherwise known as the OKS GM. Thank you so much, everyone. This has been an absolute blast. Shout out to Tabletop Audio for the awesome things that they do over there. They have tabletopaudio.com. It was a wonderful free resource for bringing cool music to your games. You can also hit up on their Patreon to get other awesome perks and audio tracks that you can use however you freaking want, because the guys over there are freaking amazing. GM Peku did the background art here. They're the premier people for art and maps and such. And next week we'll get to see actually a map that I made. Maybe. Ooh. We'll find out. Till then, thank you so much to Guild Superior, the Raiders, Christian, Bleak Season, absolutely love you, man. All these fine people at my table. I couldn't do this without you. You guys are what's making this story actually awesome. And yeah, we shall see all of you folks next week then. Bye.
Bye.